Happy Thursday and welcome back to NBAA TV. I'm Amy Sweezy. My next guest joining me here in the studio is John Talmadge. John, you are from Veryon. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
So we want to chat a little bit about where we stand post-COVID in the supply chain disruption.
Great. That's a great topic. So things have obviously the world over changed since that time. What we saw as an industry is the inability to meet production builds for original equipment manufacturers, and then how that rolls out by delaying maintenance programs, be they scheduled or unscheduled, and the follow-on shakeout of what that means to the business at the smaller level within the industry. So the supply chain ripple started sort of everything, but it was combined with a couple of other factors that really impact us to a point that we are still today recovering from that pandemic.
And are there certain areas that you see it more than others, certain parts, certain maintenance?
So they're individual little parts, right? So some of our bigger components, when you visit a large aircraft manufacturer, it may be the windshield that's holding up, a $40 million delivery, so it's in spots, and they're very specific, but so not one thing more than the other, just it happens to be, one specific piece where you don't have the whole aircraft together.
And is there anything you can do other than just be patient?
You can try to plan ahead of time, look for alternatives, but the trick, of course, in aviation is everything has to be certified. So it's not like just swapping a part. So even if you're an electronics manufacturer, say you're manufacturing GPSs or something like that, if there's a chip shortage, you can't just replace it with another chip. It has to be certified and go all the way through the TSO testing again.
And not only with the, maintenance parts in the production line, but you're also seeing an increasing shortage of the industry maintenance professionals too, right?
That's actually probably a bigger impact, to tell you the truth. And the reason is everybody knows that there's a pilot shortage. They know that there is a controller shortage. Not everybody knows there's a maintenance tech shortage. And so one of the things that always gets forgotten is that we had an ADS-B mandate in the United States. So that from the FAA in 2020 said, hey, you all have to be upgraded with this WAAS GPS enhanced positioning system by January 1st, 2020. Well, we quickly forgot that because of the pandemic, but at that point, a lot of work had been done and people just decided to retire, or they couldn't survive the downturn in the business when they shut everything down. And what they did was create a bow wave. So you had some early retirements there. And then everybody sort of got pushed up a level. When we came back, those people that didn't retire were grabbed up to the airlines, and there's a ripple effect that goes on and on. The problem with that is what you lose first is the ability to troubleshoot, because that is a big picture, long-term experience piece. So everybody is looking for maintenance techs right now that are experienced and capable, and the ability to troubleshoot is probably the number one thing they're looking for.
So how do you resolve that?
So the short answer is technology, right? A lot of this was tribal knowledge that was passed down from the older techs to the newer techs for generations before. Aviation is a zero-sum game on safety. As a business, as an industry, we've done a great job with our safety records. So it is a non-starter to do anything that might diminish that, but we have to move into delivering information to those techs, the younger generation, in a format in which they're accustomed to absorbing content and information. So technology, in one sense, moving beyond fault isolation manuals, which is sort of the checklist of if this happens, this is what's broken, right? Into something using an AI platform, natural language processing, to do guided troubleshooting is probably the quickest way to make up that gap.
Okay, so technology is key.
Very, very much so, yeah.
What are some other ways that we can focus on the next generation? I feel like that's really important to bring people in and then retain them too, of course.
Absolutely. And retention is probably going to be the biggest thing because we're competing on a global landscape. The same skills that put them in demand in aviation are the same skills that make them valuable in all other parts of industries that aren't even related to aviation, right? So we have to make sure that they are given the tools to do their job. They're giving a path, and that we understand that they are not the same group that came before them, right, which was largely military based oftentimes. So we see fewer and fewer of those. But by engaging the schools that offer these skill sets, we can help bring that new crop in to deal with the new types of aircraft, the new integrated systems. They're completely different systems than they were 5 years ago as well. And then by giving them that challenging path and realizing their value to the industry is probably the best retention plan you can have.
And NBAA, of course, holding their very first career fair here
Fantastic.
at Base
Yep.
yesterday and today. So, what do you think it is? Is it the money? Is it the benefits? Do you think it's the culture of the company? What is it that's the biggest draw for the next generation?
Well, that's a great question. So money is always a baseline, right? That's always there. But really, there's a lot of balance, work-life balance. Maintenance, especially in the past, has been an on-call job as long as they need you there so that you can make push. And there's still some of that, but the younger generation really values that work-life balance. So part of it is the culture. It's, less sort of strict hierarchical and more task-oriented and team-oriented. And then giving them the opportunity to be off when they're off really probably appeals to the younger generation.
And I think specifically for women, maternity,
Absolutely
maternity
right.
leave, caregiving, other things that are outside that are really key for that work-life balance.
Certainly, yeah. That's and look, women in our workforce are going to be crucial going forward. So I have a military background, but some of the best mechanics that I work with on helicopters were women, a very capable group and dedicated and detail-oriented in a way that maybe belies some of the preconceived notions that the older generations have had, right? So yes, being able to afford them the opportunity to participate and to grow their family and then come back to the workforce when that time is right is key.
You told me earlier before we were on camera that you're a little worried a couple years ago with all the COVID stuff going on, but now being at Base this year in 2023, how do you feel?
Tremendous difference, right? I love sort of the energy that's in the building now. There's some of the familiar faces that we've seen for the last decade at Base, right, are still here. Some of them are in new roles, which is always interesting and nice. In some sense, this is a very small industry, but it is really growing, and so I like seeing the new brands, the new products, and the new faces in addition to our old friends that have been here for a while.
And it's our last day, of course, this year. So what have you seen so far that you've just loved?
Well, I'm an aviation sort of geek at heart. So I love all the advanced air mobility vehicles. And I've been watching them and working with them in different capacities for the last 4 or 5 years when they really sort of came into vogue. And so now seeing those platforms and then seeing some of them demonstrated out at the Static, has been the highlight of this NBA Base for sure.
All right, John Talmadge, thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
To your military background. Thank you for being here and chatting with us, and hope to see you next year with even more positive news, right?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you so much. You are watching NBAA TV.